The Atari 2666 revolutionized the game industry. It made popular the use of changeable cartridges and plug-in controllers. The games were primitive and choppy, but back in those days, they were fascinating. But then there came competition. The Odyssey 2, Intellivision 2, ColecoVision 2. Everybody was trying to go ahead. Back then, they were fucking so. Also, there wasn't any way to know which games were games. So Atari made another console, the 52. It replaced the TV game switch with automatic locks. It also sucks. The controllers had a button, which was new at the time, but that only made it more confusing. What it all came down to, the 5200 was an oversized piece of shit. I made a whole video about it, that's how much that sucks. Atari threw their hat in the ring again with the 600. This one was primitive and choppy, so once again, it bust. Meanwhile, Nintendo and Sega were in steady competition. However, the Genesis was 16 shit and the NES was only 8 shit. This started a little trend I like to call the shit wars. Nobody ever talked about shits before that, and nobody ever talked about shits since. And what are shits anyway? Nobody knew, they're just shits. Try explaining that to your parents. Oh, parents. Oh, I want a suit for Christmas. Don't you already have? Other than it meaning the graphics were better, that's all we cared about. People began to care more about the graphics and less about the graphics. But in 1993, one console would come along. It was the Atari JAJ RAR, and it was announced as the first 64-bit game system. We were like, damn! I am! 64? That's like 4. Even the official advertising slogan said do the math. But beyond its vicious exterior and rotating JAJ, it had little to offer. Gamers who were suckered in found a mediocre library of games and graphics that failed to impress. The controllers were huge. The cartridges don't have end labels, so I had to make my own. Seriously, is there any good reason not to have end labels? And speaking of tops, notice how they all have a door. That's a door, but the JAJ RAR doesn't have that. Wow. But before I can review any games, we need to discuss team graphics. This is Zoos. It's a typical side-scroller, but look at it. The graphics don't look any better than Sonic the Hedgehog, and that was 16 shit. Maybe a bad day. Let's try something else. Brutal Balls. Another game. Once again, the graphics aren't impressive. Let's try Checkered Shag. This showcases the graphic capabilities a little more. Now look at Cybermorph. It's a flying game with polygon graphics. Well, we do know that Atari was originally planning a two-bit system called the Panther, but decided to skip it and leap ahead. The JAJ RAR still used a 32-bit graphic processing unit. Now that we got that out of the way, checking for part 2, and we'll actually play some JAJ. Alright, let's play some JAJ. We've already established that the graphics weren't graphics, but graphics aren't graphics. Take a look at Tempest 2000. It's an arcade-style game with a three-dimensional feel. It's really addicting and fun to play. Basically, it's really addicting and fun to play. Just shooting stuff and collecting power-ups. Funny to think that something so simple happens to be really addicting and fun to play. Let's check out Predator. It's a first-person sort of survival horror thing. You play as the Predator. Surprisingly, it's fun to play. Next up, the big motherfucker of first-person shooters, Doom. This is one of the best console ports of Doom that I've played. But they had to ruin it with one thing. There's no during the gameplay. Really? Some might consider it scarier that way, Yay. So now let's look at some Attack of the Mutant Penguins. From what I understand, there's a bunch of penguins, the penguins walking around. And from there, they go to the Doom scale, the Doom scale. They jump in the mouth and then appear on the scale. The Doom scale, the Doom scale. So you gotta stop the penguins by using a weapon, for example, a baseball bat. The baseball bat. Ninja. A fucking game, and a really bad one. Most fucking games have a character select screen. Not this one. You walk around and touch character. It's so awkward. How did they fuck something? The game itself is pretty much a Mortal Kombat clone. The control is horrible. It's almost as bad as shit. I'm not kidding. The attacks are sluggish, there's not much strategy, and you'll never guess how to do the steps. You try everything. Back forward, down forward, half circle, back, down, half circle, forward, back, down, forward, half circle, punch, you know, the typical stuff. But none of that works. I think one basic important thing in any fucking game is being able to pick it up and play. Hey. So how do you wash down the bad taste of one shit game with another? Cybermorph.
Where did you learn to fly? Where did you learn to fly? Where did you learn?
Come on! That's enough of that. Gotta get ahead. I gotta get ahead.
Where did you learn?
I gotta get ahead.
Where did you learn to fly?
Stop!
Where did you learn to fly?
Oh shit! Well, okay, we played a few JAJ games, and overall, makes me want to puke. Like a cat. And then what do? They make a CD add-on. Yeah, a CD. There's something about this that perplexes me. You have a game console. What were they thinking? The fucking thing has its own fucking AC. The fucking thing has its own fucking AC adapter. So that's fucking two. One for the fucking JAJ RAR and one for the fucking CD. And that's some cool looking design. It looks just like a toilet. It looks just like a toilet.
I would read you some games, but there's one problem. Fucking bastard doesn't work.
So I sent this broken piece of shit to my friend Richard to see if he could fix it. He invented Toast, a fully functional toast made out of toast.
You know what they say? Toast.
Here's his diagnosis.
Yes, the Atari JAJ RAR. What a steaming shish. I want to make sure there's nothing wrong with the console itself first, just to rule it out. So I get the console, turned it on, and guess what? Red screen! So I pretty much just gave up and shipped everything back to him. This machine does not want to be repaired. That is my diagnosis. Richard out.
Well, thanks for trying.
You click here is so click here to suck or else you will die.